Oh, my stereo system's better than yours. That's what I'm going to title this video, I guess. This has been I made one of these before. I never uploaded it, but I figured the title will maybe get a few people to look at stereo systems from a different point of view. Over the years, I've had so many different discussions on, like audiokarma.org, which is like, a place where people go and talk about their stereos and different systems they get. And over the years, I've gone through so many different stereo systems. I mean, I've had the old stuff, I've had the new stuff, and right now this is what I'm using. It's a Pioneer SX750. No big deal, nothing special about it. Got it at Goodwill for like 25 bucks or something. But I've had it for about 5 years and it works great. And I've gone back and forth through so many different receivers and speakers. And I mean, dozens and dozens of amplifiers and stuff. This is my Akai reel-to-reel. I'm not really partial to that, it's just what it is. But these are the speakers that I'm using. They are SX or SP2500X Sansui's 5-ways, and they've got a really nice kick. They're a little bit lacking on the low end, but the mids are really nice. They've got a convex and a concave mid that seem to have different. I'm not sure if the sound is actually different from each one, but anyway, it seems to be. I'm not a huge stereo fanatic. I'm just a guy who likes good music. I'm a guy who really likes music. And in my house, this is my just hangout room. In my house I've got a Yamaha receiver with another turntable and a couple of RTR speakers. They're tower speakers. And then I have a set of like Paradigm speakers that some rich people I was doing a construction job for, and they just wanted me to get rid of them, and they were in the wall. They're like $700 speakers. But my point being that those $700 speakers don't compare to these little Sansuis I got for 20 bucks. Now over here I've got various receivers. I've got a Marantz 4415 and a Denon and a Yamaha and a Onkyo and Sansui 771 and a whole bunch of Bose speakers over there, and various amplifiers and stuff. Here I got a pair of AR3s that I just picked up. I have to do a little bit of work on those. But anyway, I really like stereos. I really like good music, and I really like listening to it through a good stereo. And having a lot of discussions with people, I've heard people say stuff like, you have to have, gold speaker wire connectors. Look, all mine have gold connectors. And thinking that the more money you put into a system, the better it's going to be. For people who don't know, gold connectors are nothing more than gold-plated connectors, and the only reason they gold-plate the connectors is for corrosion resistance. The gold itself is actually less conductive than silver. I believe silver is just above copper in conductivity, so if you could afford silver speaker wire, sure, you could get a little better sound, but I'm not trying to knock the guys out there who are really fanatics about this stuff, but sometimes it becomes a little obsessive. And I made a video. Actually, my most popular video I ever made was one about vintage stereo equipment. It's really funny. So I just thought I'd kind of revisit this to reformulate some things that I left out of that one. Because, yes, vintage is better than modern. But what I meant by that was that you can get a better deal on a vintage receiver than you can buying a new one if you're trying to go for cost effectiveness and for quality of sound. Given there's a lot of repairs and work to do on older equipment, that you have to get it working right, and you generally can't use a remote control. They generally don't have surround sound. They don't have any of the modern day stuff. I went through a bunch of surround sound receivers over the years in various speaker setups in my living room. And then I found that if I positioned my front two speakers in just the right position, I could get a surround sound in my room, depending on where the speakers reflected on the walls. I did all this research into sound, speaker placement, stereo quality, trebles and bass adjustments, and trying to keep the most natural sound, and whether or not to use a subwoofer. So in the end, I do have a subwoofer in there with my system, but it's used as just kind of a backup for movies, because I like to get my bass through my main speakers. I don't like having a separate sub system. But as long as I follow those rules, I'm generally happy. These SP2500X speakers are phenomenal. They're the best sounding speakers I've ever had, and they really aren't that expensive. They were made in Vietnam. I think a lot of the soldiers brought them back over in the 70s from Vietnam. I'm not sure where they were made. I think Japan, but yeah, Sansui, Japan. Anyway, I found that these systems really depend on who you are and how you position your ears. You know, so if a person's arguing saying their system sounds better than another system, and try and experiment and sit back in the same position and then just do this and listen to the song again, and then realize that when you sit and listen to music, it's different than the other guy who has a totally different ear structure than you. And not only that, but the stereo put in your room as according to where you're listening to it, let's say, in a different room, it's always going to sound different. Depends on how much echo. It's just like a subwoofer enclosure. You have to have just the right amount of space in that enclosure to make the right sound. And the same goes for a room with the stereo. So there's a lot of people arguing about which system is the best. And really it all comes down to how your ears perceive sound, how the sound waves affect your eardrums. And not only that, but then there's source. You know, what do you listen to the most? Classical, heavy metal, you know? What stereo is going to suit your purposes. The reason I go vintage is because I've been through many modern receivers and I cannot get the low end or the right mids that I want on those systems. So I go with the old Pioneers because I think that they put out, the SX series for me puts out phenomenal sound, and you can find them anywhere. There's a lot of them. But you know, if you want to go with vintage, you've got to do a little bit of work and research into it. Fixing your unit, you know, unless it's in really good shape and you buy a refurbished unit, which might be better. But anyway, just some thoughts on sound, because sound, you know, with all the debates on what's the best sound, it really is personal. And if you're happy with a $10 system, you're happy with it, or $100 system, whatever, then you're happy with it. But once you've listened to MP3s and then compared it to listening to vinyl on a nice system, it's really hard to go back. So that's all I got on that. Hope you're all doing well, and namaste.